You are now listening to Workplace War Stories on the I Never Worry podcast, the number one place to unpack that emotional baggage you've been carrying around for far too long. Here's your opportunity to process those challenging situations at work through emotionally intelligent conversations with the EI guy, DB Bedford, and his co-host, Terry Jones.
All right, welcome to Workplace War Stories. This is essentially our first, episode of the podcast. My name is DB Bedford, better known as the EI guy,
And I'm Terry Jones.
better known as the one who keeps it popping, keeps us all straight up in here.
That's what it is.
You know what I'm saying? So, Workplace War Stories is an idea that I came up with. Being someone who works, doing emotional intelligence for major corporations and someone who had like a 20-year career working, somebody always had a story about some things. And then I was thinking about how, being the EI guy, people will come to me quite often just to kind of unpack, right, their experiences in life. And a lot of times those experiences are related to things that happen in the workplace. So I started thinking, I was like, man, where is there a place where folks can kind of unpack the stuff that's happening with them on a regular basis? And I was like, Workplace War Stories podcast. It just came to me while I was driving. And so then I brought it to you, and you're someone who has an extensive background in working. And when you lit up when I said it, I knew it was on, because you don't just be giving into all my ideas.
You're right, and you have many. But with this, it made more sense, for both of us, you being the EI guy and me with my work experience. Now, I'm a finance person.
Okay.
I'm read, numbers tell you 1 + 1 = 2. You can't debate that. Terry, that's wrong. I was like, well, look, everybody has their opinion. We think it's wrong. Leadership thinks it's right. Right? So who's wrong or right? It's not that. What we can do is we can agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. But then I take my marching orders and I'm going to implement it to the best of my ability of that person. I had to learn that because I would get bent out of shape when I thought something was right. And for some reason, I knew it was right, if it was right or not.
Because that's your belief.
Right.
Where we talk about the battle of beliefs. Like, you have a belief that if you are in the conversation, God damn it, I'm right.
It's right.
It's just right. Right. And if you want to, emotional maturity, if you will, you have understood over time that you're not always right.
Exactly.
Right. Might be a hard pill to swallow. Right. But it's not always right. And there's other perspectives, because sometimes it's not even about right or wrong. It's just about multiple perspectives.
Right.
And then who is the decision maker in this particular situation? So if I'm not the final decision maker, then I have to accept the perspective of the person making the decision. It's like our children, right? They may not agree with how we say, rinse out this bowl every time, right? And put it up. And a child might go, but it's only one bowl, or why? Or I could do it later, right? But you don't get the final say so on this, right? Like when you get your own, you get your own stuff, and then you make the right? But until then, and so he or she could decide, okay, I don't agree with it, I don't like it, but I'm going to do it. And I feel like the inner child in us shows up to work, and you see folks with these temper tantrums, right? Because they can't get their way. And they have not done the work that we have done to understand that it's actually a thing. Actually, when someone disagrees with me, it bucks up against a belief that I have, right? And there's a feeling that I get if you don't agree with me, right? Now, everybody's going to be different. Some people, like you say, choose violence, right? Some people get sad. Some people shut down, feel neglected. There are other things that associate with make you, and that's what when we talk about, we're talking about like how you show up to work, right? So when we talk about like workplace war stories, is really like preparing for the battle, right? The battle of beliefs, right? The fight for your decisions, to fight for your peace, to fight, all of the things that are going to come up throughout the day so that you stay in a good energetic space to process. Because this is what it all boils down to. Can you process the variety of things that may or may not happen in a workplace? And when, like you said, when you load up for the morning, what are you even thinking, right? Are you coming to work like you still love what you're doing, or are you coming looking for the thing that's wrong? Who are you thinking about when you go to work? Are you thinking about the problem employee? Like, there's a lot of things that go into people's mind that they may not even be conscious of when they jump in the car. So no wonder why by the time you get to work, you feel a certain kind of way, because subconsciously you already downloaded how you think the day is going to be.
Right. And that's why I think it's so important that you prepare yourself mentally before you go into work. Well, the better way to say it, we all work for somebody. We don't sign our own check. So let's go in there and do the best that we can. We have a job description. I'm going to do my job. And I'm not going to get into, my coworker that's sitting next to me. She always on the phone. And ain't nobody telling her nothing because she on the phone. But then let me pick up the phone. Somebody dare somebody come and tell me today when I get ready to make my call that, you got to let all that go. You can only control yourself.
How do I do it? Right? Like what is the thing that's keeping me from doing it? Because logically, when we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about, don't let your emotions overpower your intelligence. We understand that the higher the emotion, lower the logic. So logically, what you're telling me makes sense. But what if I'm in that emotional space? How do you help me? How would we help someone? Like, could we say prepare? So how do we help them recalibrate that? Like, what are the
triggers?
Yeah. Well, like, what would you like if it's you?
Well,
like,
see, I can tell you how I did it.
Okay.
I do it. And everybody's different. But I used to get ready. I had a particular boss that I was not getting along with, a VP. He was the vice president.
Why wasn't y'all getting along?
He had, he was totally different from the guy before, right? The guy before, Terry, you do what you want, take care of it. He trusted me.
Okay.
I had earned my he knew that I would get my job done. This guy ain't know me from Adam. So he comes in and he wants to do things his way, which I didn't particularly care for his way. And I just didn't. It was different from what we were doing. I thought he should do things the way I wanted.
Okay.
So
So were you showing up every day with
an attitude? I showed up every day already mad because I know he was going to say something that was for me that was stupid. Now this is a VP. This man ran. This is one of the top 100 companies that, I'm like, and he's stupid because he ain't doing things the way I want it. But then someone said to me, why don't you just go to work and do your job? My boyfriend at the time. I was mad at him for telling me that.
So how did you receive that? So when he says, just go to work and do your job, was the first thing you thought about, like, I am doing my damn job? Did you kind of think that way?
Yeah, I did. I was like, I'm doing my job. I'm doing a good job. It's the stupid man that's not. And, forgive me for saying, which is one of my closest friends now, believe it or not, the guy. But I'm like, what? Why would you say that to me? He's like, because you already are in battle. Just do your job. Why are you worried about the way he wants it done? If that's your job. And I was like, what? So I'm driving down the street one day and I'm getting to Wilder. And I had to stop. And this is my way. I had to pray. I had to get into myself and just really think about, I don't want to go up in here and go off. Right. I won't go off, but that's how I felt. But then I stopped and I was like, guide me, because I just don't understand why all these people don't get that I'm right. And I turned my radio on. I listened to this station is Talk TV. I can't remember what it is. And the whole thing was about people going to work and just doing their job.
Mm.
And when that
Your prayer was answered.
he's like, and that's what I said. I said, maybe I'm not doing my job. Maybe I'm trying to do. I had to receive that, and it was real hard at first. And then I prayed, got out the car. So I'm just going to do whatever he asked. I ain't got no attitude. I know what I need to get done. I ran some reports, gave it to him because he had been asking for these reports every morning. I was like, those reports ain't telling you nothing. Why are you wasting my time? I went in, got those reports out, and put it on his desk. And when I was walking out, he was coming in. And he said, good morning. I said, good morning. And he said, you needed something? I said, no, I just put your reports on your desk. And he said, oh, thank you. Looked at the reports. Next morning, I did the same thing. And then it came to basically, they were very important. He showed me the trends that he was looking for in the reports and what it would do. And if you look at it a certain way, this is what it was telling you. And I was like blown away because it made all the sense in the world once but I was fighting him because it wasn't done that way before. Yeah. And so for me, I have to pray that, I almost humble myself that I didn't know everything. And I went to work and did my job. That was my boss. He signs my check. And there's a respectful way to disagree, but I never gave him a chance to tell me why he was running the reports. He just wanted the reports. And then, one day he said, prior to this, I ask you for these every morning. Like, why can't you just have the reports ready? And I was like, because they're stupid. You don't need the reports. But he really did. And he was using them for something that made a whole lot of sense. And then I started running reports and looking at them beforehand. And then I started analyzing the reports for him, the numbers, the way that he was looking at. And before he could come in, he didn't have to do it. I had done it already and told him what it was doing. And we became a great team because I learned so much from him. But if I would have kept fighting, because what I was thinking is I got to find another, I'm going to move. I'm going to move to a different position because that was my way,
And even though he hadn't done anything to you, right?
But I thought he had done a whole lot. I'm just being honest. I thought he had done something to me.
So he ain't done nothing to you. he just happy to be the VP. I know, but that is exactly how it goes a lot of times. And so that is kind of why it's super important to try to, it's hard, it's human nature, but it's so important to try to stop determining what's right and what's wrong, or what's good, or what you consider to be bad, because it's subjective, right? It's your experience. And because every time you do that, so if you determine, so you like, this is stupid, you think this is not the right way to do it, so therefore you start to engage with him from like your lower self, right? From the negativity, from the everything. He can't win, right? He couldn't bust a grape if he was standing on it. And you know what I'm saying, in your world, because you had already determined that he was out of pocket, even though he hadn't done anything. But I think it's really something that's very key, that at the end of the day, you were able to get in rhythm and alignment with it. And it was because you did one particular thing. You had an opportunity to understand why he was asking you for what he was asking. And once you understood, and then it made sense to you, then you freely was able to move forward. And I think that's just, to me, that's the key. There's a couple of takeaways, but number one is that we cannot just be showing up in any space already determining like what it is, exactly, right? And we have to, because I know like at work for me, like I had a guy tell me before, I had a guy literally tell me before where I worked at, he was basically violating a policy. And the policy was they had to wear these safety belts, these utility belts, right, around their waist to carry their equipment. And I seen the guy on 2 or 3 different occasions not wearing a belt. In fact, he had the belt over his shoulder, wearing it like a person would wear a purse, right? This is how he's carrying it. Now, he was a little overweight, right? So it might not have been comfortable for him. I get that. But when I asked him about putting his belt on, when he seen me coming, I asked him about it, he was like, "Oh, it's good, DB. I'm gonna put it on." But then I would walk away, he wouldn't put it on. And then I would see him again, and he would have it on. So the next time I seen him, I didn't say anything to him. I just had him called to my office so I can have a one-on-one with him, because I really wanted to find out what is it about this belt that you're not wearing. Now, I really wanted him to tell me, my thought was he's going to tell me the belt too small or it's not comfortable, whatever. So then I would work on getting you one that's more comfortable. But he did not like the fact that I was even checking him about this belt. Nobody else said anything. This is in his mind. He's like, DB, ain't nobody else said nothing. Why are you saying something? So right then and there, I already know, well, it's not even about whether this is the actual thing to do or not. It's because I said something. And so then I said, well, my job is to make sure that everybody is in compliance. Basically, I'm the compliance and standards supervisor. And so he said in the policy, he says, where in the policy does it say that you have to wear a belt around your waist? And I said, bro, it's a belt. Like,
where you gonna wear the belt?
It's implied that you wear it around the waist. And so he said, but it don't say it in policy. I said, well, then I'm telling you to wear the belt. And the man said to me, and who are you?
Yeah, that's why I got felt. It's good to be the VP.
I said, man, I am your supervisor's supervisor. I'm not only just a supervisor, I'm yours. I am the manager, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But the point is, the fact that he even had that conversation with me in that tone, the audacity to even come in, but it has a lot to do about how we be feeling, you know. And that is the thing that's important. Now, I could have took it offensively, but I didn't. You know, I used to try to play, because people used to come at me sideways a lot, and I let a lot of stuff go. And there's some stuff I came straight head on, but I tried to have understanding that I know a lot of people were jealous of me because I got promoted over a lot of people fast. So that I knew that was always ringing. I was somebody now on my behalf. I could have done better when I first got promoted, because I definitely was like, I ain't these other cats. Like I was like, you know, because they used to punk all the other supervisors. Like, you know, where I work was wild. Like a person to come to work at like 7:15, they got to be to work at 7. They show up at 7:15, 7:20 with Starbucks and McDonald's in their hands and look at you like, what? You know what I'm saying? And previous supervisors wasn't giving nothing. Right. And then when I became in the seat, I'm like, no, like at putting everybody on notice, right? First I put everybody on notice. We're not doing that no more. Somebody always show it up, and then you give them the corrective action or the warning, and now DB tripping.
Right. Because see, this is the old Terry would have been like, what makes him think that he could come in here and start putting this stuff out there? And that's what you just said, you know, they challenge you. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to break down. Why do we have to challenge? And there's some things you need to challenge, but a policy, your supervisor, you just laying down.
You're supposed to be so. But and here's the thing, though, and my environment was so cold. The union, I'm not even mad. They was gangster. They got away with a lot of stuff for a long time, and they had. And I don't know if this is universal, but they used to throw this terminology out there. So if something was, even if it was policy, if they were allowed to do it for a reasonable period of time, they called it past practice. Oh, yeah. Right? So I haven't worked in many places. I don't know if it's you, but so they would get management in a bind by saying it's past, which it makes sense, right? So if I'm allowing you to come every day, not just me, because there's shifts, there's 15, 20 supervisors. So if the management team is not consistent, then how does the employee know, right, what is the appropriate way to do things is really what it boils down to. And all it would do is just really keep them from being disciplined. Right. So it became my task to make sure that everybody understood what we're supposed to be doing and get some consistency in it before we held people accountable. But holding you accountable was not to punish you. It was to hold you to the standard that you agreed upon when you got hired.
Right.
And I don't understand for the life of me. This might be a whole section by itself.
It is. I know what you're getting ready to say.
Yeah. How do you go from being super juiced from getting a call the day they hired you? Like when they called you, when you got that letter in the mail, when they called you, you were excited. Right. I mean, you told people you loved, and if you did it in a social media era, you posted on Facebook and was like, God is good, ain't he? And you did all of this. And then in a very short period of time, can't nobody tell you shit. Like what happens? How do we allow ourselves to get to the point where we, you hear the terms disgruntled, low morale, toxic environments? How does that even happen? How do we even put ourselves in those positions? How do we even let an environment curate like this? And the first thing people are going to say, just like you and I have said, we're going to blame it on somebody else.
Right.
And not do yourself like that. Like, don't do yourself like that to the point where you put your happiness, your peace, your inspiration in somebody else's hands.
But I think what happens, and you're absolutely right, but what happens, like you're right, but no, you're absolutely right. I think, episode 2 from journey, from start, we're happy to exit. I did a lot of exit interviews with individuals, and you should hear the stuff that people talk about. And you say, you're excited about the job because it's like going on the first date. You showing your best stuff, and he's showing his.
Yep.
So everybody's doing, they're painting this picture that's not really happening. They're painting a picture that's not really.
So you're not really happy about your job?
No, you're happy. I'm saying you're painting a picture of who you are to the employer to make you an offer, and the employer is painting a picture about how great this environment and this job is.
But when you get there, it's not.
And when you get there, it's not that.
Okay.
I'm telling you, that's what it is.
Oh yeah. I can see. Oh yeah.
That's what it is. So then you get in there. I never forget my 30-year company. I just thought about this for the first time. I'm a African-American woman in finance. Not a lot of us. So I get the job. I go to the interview. I'm going to my car. A brother come out. Hey, sister. Hey. Let me talk to you a minute. And he was like, you interviewed? Yeah. He said, I worked there. He said, cool, but I'll tell you something. This place is wicked. So I had to take, is he real?
Right.
Or is he just mad because something's going on? So I get the job offer, and fast forward, everything he said was absolutely right. Mm-hmm. And even when I got there, he was like, look, you can survive it. This is what I'm telling you what you have to do. So he was all right. He was all right. And so we paint this picture. So when you get there, you got to know, just like when you're on a date, he ain't all what he said he going to be. Mm-hmm. And you ain't all what you say. You got to take the weave off, the lashes off and all that. And then they're going to see that. So how do you deal with that? You look at the core of the individual. And so when we go to work, we got to start looking at why we go to work. That's the core. Mm-hmm. We have bills to pay. Yeah. And some people work for different things. Some people are feeding the hungry and stuff like that. But if it's just like, I need a job, and we all do. I mean, people have bills. So you want to take care of
you have to earn your living.
Earn a living, and, you got to know that, and know that you took a job that said, I have to do this, follow these policies. We signed sexual harassment policies. We signed, whatever you sign with the policies, that's what you do. And we got to understand that. So when we go there, that's why it's, you say, I was all excited. And then because a lot of things change. It's almost like, management change. I start going out with you, and then here's somebody else.
Right.
That it changes. So that changes the dynamic. Leadership changes the dynamic. Supervisor changes the dynamic.
I agree.
And so we have to understand that's part of work. When you accept a job,
Right.
everything is not going to stay the same. You got to accept that sometimes you're going to have a not so nice person, as we call them, assholes, that's going to manage you. How you're going to deal with that? But we don't think about that. We're just excited about the job, and we're going to get it there.
Start thinking how much you're going to make, and your days off, and all the perks, all the perks.
But we don't think about, okay, what happens
the process
when the management changes, and what happens when one person is being treated better than the other person because they're getting some kind of
they've been around for a while, or they know such and such,
they know somebody, and they know management. What about? We don't think about that, and we don't think about how we're going to handle that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And then you have those people like you talk about that come to work and is happy every day and just do their job, and they don't get involved with the job because they've figured it out. They're there to do a job.
Well, they choose purpose over pettiness.
Right. I love that.
Like,
purpose over
pettiness. They're
not
governed.
Involved.
Yeah, they already decided. And I remember so. They give you like this 2-week orientation, right, where I worked at. And so I had this supervisor was wild. She was super wild. Like, she was so wild that her nickname had something to do with being wild, right? And she would walk around, my work environment where we're broken down into different units, if you will. And so she would take me around to each unit and introduce me to the people that were working. And I promise you, every unit we left, she would chop their ass up after left. Like, so she'd come in like, oh, this is Terry, and this is person, this is whatever. And then we'll talk, and then she might go and mess around, and then other people might introduce themselves or whatever. And then when we leave and walk to the next space, she would tell me
everything wrong with that
everything
person.
wrong with you, or don't worry, you hope you better not will get working with them or whatever. And so trying to download how she think I should be programmed to work here. But I never, again, my reason for coming to the job was superseded anything that was happening because of my opportunity that I didn't believe that I even deserved at the time, right? So I was so thankful and grateful for it wasn't nothing you could tell me about this based on where I come from. So I would take it as entertainment, if you will, when people would share stuff with me like that, but I didn't get sucked into it. And that one of the reasons why I promoted faster than most people, because they were still stuck focusing on. I remember the first time I applied for a supervisor position, you were supposed to have been a tenured employee. They called you a tenured 2, which would, I don't know, maybe say 2 years at the time. So right at the 2-year mark, I applied. But culturally or environment wise, you didn't really become a supervisor like 7 years, 5. Like, they wanted you, everything was all about how long you've been here.
Right.
They based everything on how long you've been here. And I'm like, but the papers say 2 years. And so I applied and I got it.
And one of the things I used to always say, time is not a competency.
Oh yeah, you need to be a
and everybody knew that
poster.
when I moved to HR, and it was like, well, he's been here 30. Time is not a competency.
That is the number one thing. No, but that is the number. That is that you need to write that down.
Oh, I have that. Everybody knew where I came from. This, don't tell her.
Time is not. That might be the subject of a show. Time is not a competency. Like, that don't make you nothing. Right. That just means you've been here long. That's all that means.
I had a guy tell me once, I've been here way longer than you, and I've been here, what I said, and I'm your boss's boss's boss. Yeah. Time is not a competency.
Yeah, now you use a jackass for saying that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's facts. That's a good point, because I think that's a pain point.
That's a big
for a
pain
lot of
point
people.
For
if you see somebody get a assignment or a promotion or some type of favor, and this person's been here 2 years and you've been here 20. You're gonna feel a certain kind of way. I've heard tons of people, even outside of my job, from the training that I do. When people would vent, would tell me what they're going through, and seniority is a conversation a lot. When you say that time is not a competency, right? Time is also not a gateway to entitlement, right? Because I remember, I got tons of stories, but I would think about one where it was a graveyard shift, and not the one I told you before. This is another graveyard shift story where an employee was coming to her graveyard shift, and she would bring a cot to sleep on.
Shut up.
She brought a whole, like she was going to a slumber party.
She was going to have a good time. Have her little coffee, got her little cot, got a pillow and her blanket.
She came to work to go to sleep.
Probably had her silk haired scarf.
But when that pattern got disrupted, because that's what happened, instead of accepting the fact that it was a good run,
exactly,
it became problematic, and a new workplace war story was developed.
You are now listening to Workplace War Stories on the I Never Worry podcast, the number one place to unpack that emotional baggage you've been carrying around for far too long. Here's your opportunity to process those challenging situations at work through emotionally intelligent conversations with the EI guy, DB Bedford, and his co-host, Terry Jones.